Hello, strong soul crew. Great to see you in another moment of the now. And today I'm sharing a deep transmission. It's about the meaning of life. I think it's one of those big questions that children, most of it have, and then we just kind of put aside as we grow and we get more serious about life, and we just actually end up having all of this hollow hollow distractions that seem very serious, but at the end they're pretty mundane. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the mundane. There's some entertaining stuff out there, in this planet earth, this earth life game. Yet, sometimes once you've achieved all of the hollow tears and the superficial achievements and go through the rat race and whatnot, a lot of people find themselves lacking meaning in life. And they're like, hey, I did everything I was told. I did everything society said we should do. And there's still not that deep fulfillment, that like deep yearn for life. So we're going to explore that today. That'll be today's quest, if you may, that expedition. And the North Star will be the meaning of life is up to you. You are the creator. And we've heard a lot of these terms thrown out there lightly. But just to keep it simple, it is up to you to create meaning out of your own life experiences. Because from this perspective, things just are, energy just is, events are just events, things are what they are. How you choose to archive them, perceive them, and the attitude that you develop towards them is what really determines how they impact your life, right? There's breakdowns, for example, or situations, crises, and there's two types of people: the ones that say, this breaks me, this broke me, or this will make me. And that's attitude, that's an approach. Sometimes it feels that we don't have a choice, and that's part of the trap, that's part of the test. And just knowing that you do have free will if you want to, because that's what free will is for. Imagine forcing free will on people, it would deflect the purpose of free will. But if you really gather the depths of it, is the choice that you always have towards life and towards creating meaning, and how meaningful something is going to be to you, whether it's for the best or the worst, or for just the evolution of your soul, right? Sometimes when we overcome and graduate from this sense of duality, things are just for the evolution of the soul, whether they're good or bad or negative or positive. They are just helping you evolve. So when you have that perspective, everything is taking you a leap closer towards your fulfillment, towards a meaningful life, right? And a meaningful life has ups and has downs, because the downs give you depth and the highs give you perspective. And from my perspective, they're both necessary, because the surface is as valid and necessary as the depths in order to have a meaningful life. And again, everybody has their own experience and their own capacity, right? Not Depth is not the same for every soul. All souls have different capacities. And it's just like colors or emotions. They each have their own frequency, and not all of them have to look a certain way or feel a certain way. They each have their own purpose, just like people. Everybody has their own purpose, their own soul print to fulfill. So this is where I try to be very open with the transmission, so that you can let that sit for yourself. You can discern, what does that mean to you? What does that look to you? Because what's deep for you may be very different for another person. So this is what takes us into a sacred healing space. Sacred in the sense that it's sacred to you because it means something to you. It may not mean or represent anything to other people. Yet when you are in the sacred space of vulnerability, you are doing this for the sake of your own self, because the more you realize yourself, the more you recognize yourself, the more you can impact the environment with your vibration. And that's the energy print, that's the soul print that you're here to bring into this world, because no one, even if they tried, can replicate the vibration, the frequency that you represent. You're unique, right? So only you can be you, and only you can bring into the crew what you're made up of. Even if somebody else is doing the same thing, they're never going to make it the way you would. And that's the beauty of it. That's what brings meaning, that uniqueness to you. And it takes time to self-reflect and to go inwards and to realize that, because the world is spinning very quickly and things speed up. And there's so much noise and so much chaos and so many standards and so many things that it can be very easy to get dizzy and to average ourselves out with the crew, with the crowds, even with the crew, right? We start like, oh, this works for them, I'm gonna do the same thing. Of course, let's use each other as inspiration, not as a reference point. The difference is like, okay, they're doing this, I'm gonna see how that works for me, versus I'm gonna do what they're doing, I'm gonna get where they're getting. It's just like, you never see in nature um anything mimicking another for the sake of maybe like survival. Maybe that's another side, that maybe that would be too vague of an example, but the point is that everything in nature has a purpose. um and with regards to that, that's how you move forwards, by opening up your own lane, by reflecting on what's yours, what's meaningful to you, because the more you fulfill yourself with meaning, the more powerful you get. And that's the creator role. The creator role is, regardless of what happens to me, I'm able to take charge and create an outcome that serves the evolution of my soul. Does it take strength? Yes. Courage as well. Diligence, dedication, consistency, all of those. The good thing is you don't have to do it all at once. It's something that you do day by day. And it's actually a practice better done when you learn how to slow down, when you learn how to feel through the motions, the energies in motion, the emotions, the information, and to really process yourself. And just like old photographs, a lot of people may not know this, but they were revealed from the negative, right? Like you get the negative, that's the blueprint, and then you reveal from there. You bring light into that. And that's what our consciousness is doing, is imprinting from the subconscious. And here is where we connect, because that's how we create meaning into life, is by creating a deeper connection into our subconscious, because our subconscious contains all meaningful, if you want to see it that way, all meaningful content. Because at an existential level, like, you can just see what exists, right, or we perceive. And then it's in the subconscious that your true dreams and your passions and your uniqueness and your gifts are imprinted, but we have to reveal them inside out, right? And this is where we begin to fulfill ourselves with inspiration. We overcome the heartbreak. And interestingly, like heartbreak and separation and all of these things that we try to avoid are sometimes the things that cut us open so that we can go deeper. These are the experiences that, if you want to see them from an evolutionary perspective, they open you up to be more vulnerable. And as you develop your psyche, this is very beautiful, because psyche has taken a turn in the modern day, but let's go back to the root. The root of psyche is soul in Greek, right? So as long as you have a soul, you have a psyche. That means that you can develop yourself psychically. Without further ado, so as you begin your psychic development, you begin to strengthen your connection to the subconscious mind, and you begin to really dive into the fun part of life. If this resonates for you, if you're somebody that likes deeper meaning in life. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be deep and heavy and dense and existential all the time. It means that you learn how to dive deep, get all of the good stuff, all of the nuggets, and then bring them into the surface, bring them into the mundane, right? Like be more careless, not in an irresponsible way, but in a way that you're not trying to control everything, that you understand that sometimes the deeper meanings in life are pretty simple. Like, that's something very interesting. Sometimes we try to look for complex solutions in order to justify the process, like, oh, this is so complex, and we kind of see that as a better answer than a simple one. Yet life is pretty simple. If you sit down and you look at nature, it's pretty straightforward, it's pretty simple. It's sometimes the mind that created all of these layers, and trauma and denial and escapism and pacifiers and coping mechanisms, that it got very complex. And once we begin to break through the complexes, we go back into the root. And like I said, that connection to the subconscious is more of a gut feeling. It's just like, you just know, you just feel. And we're in very interesting times, because this is something that is much more natural in general to women, right? Because of their intuitive development and needs in order to be mothers. Yet consciousness has evolved to a degree that this is much more accessible to the average man than it has ever before. Consciousness is rising, so it's a lot more accessible. So this is the beautiful part, that also men can begin to bring forth into the game this divine masculine psychic strength and power and wisdom that women could have just dreamt of, right? Like we could perceive it and we could feel it, but for us, it's vibrationally, I don't want to say impossible because we don't dwell on those dimensions, but it's like as a feminine vessel, it's a vibration that you're not capable of embodying, right? Just like men are able to embody certain frequencies, females are able to embody certain frequencies. So even though we could grasp what a divine masculine feels like, we, our mission and our purpose is to embody the divine feminine. That doesn't mean, and maybe I'm crossing here too many ideas, we're made up of both. We're made up of masculine and feminine energies, yet some have a biological female vessel. So we are meant to share and create from this feminine space, as do men in their own ways, right? So by creating psychic development, men and females, they begin to balance, and they do what a lot of people know as the cosmic marriage, the cosmic dance, which is this divine energy of balance. And we clearly went on a tangent here, but what I want to go back to is the meaning of life is up to you, right? But these are, I guess, a few pointers moving forwards on what you can strive for, and it's being a balanced version of yourself, finding that stable ground and embodying the energy that is a vibrational match to your biological vessel. And that means that you embrace either your masculine biology or your feminine biology, and you work through that, because there's women that they have feminine biology, yet they're very masculine, and there's a gift in that, is learning how to shape and craft that strength and that power through the delicacy of the feminine, and vice versa. There's men that have very strong feminine energies, and it's how they carve and craft and sculpt that beautiful sensitive energy through their vessel, right? So it's just beautiful. It's a lens, and that's how you can create meaning, by being like, okay, there are certain sets and features that I'm made up of, and then there's my psychic potential. How can I develop that through this lens? Maybe this is a little bit advanced. I don't know if it's making as much sense as I pray it would, so feel free to share if it does. The whole point of this is diving into the meaning of life, yet sharing how it can also be mundane and simple at the surface. It doesn't always have to be complex, occult, mysterious things. It's more like diving within yourself, understanding what you're made up of, reflecting upon that, owning what you've been through, betting on yourself, and developing yourself psychically in order to connect to your subconscious mind and be able to bring that into game mode, into this game of life, and share that through your experiences and share that with others, because we're waiting to see the magic that you've brought into the game. It takes time to cultivate. There's always support around, yet it is up to you. It is up to you to define and determine what's meaningful in your life, what values and principles you want to live by. Set that as your North Star. And every time you take action or you do something, filter through your personal values, right? For example, some of mine is like brutal honesty, integrity, respect. So when I'm gonna act, to the best of my abilities, it's a practice. We're all human. We can always strive to do better. But I filter through that, and I'm like, is this completely honest, or is it biased? Am I very emotional, right? So I take a step back, or I'm like, is this respectful, or am I even disrespecting myself? Right? Or like I said, am I in integrity with myself? Is this something that I could regret in years to come? Because it was a bit of a shortcut, because when you're creating meaning, you don't want to take shortcuts. You really want to pave the way. You want to own it. You want to be proud of it. So there's a few nuggets there with regards to the meaning of life. Clearly, we're not pretending to summarize that in a transmission. It's something that we will be expanding on, but this is a conversation opener, and to prompt you and to validate that you can turn yourself into the creator. You can go into creator mode and create meaning in your life in the degree that you are accountable for yourself, your life, and your behavior. And as much as you take responsibility, you keep moving forwards in the direction of the evolution of your soul. So, a bit of a cocktail there on ideas. I pray that some made more sense. And as for me, I will see you in another moment of the now.